All right, let's talk a little bit about memory. Memory is fascinating because in psychology, it was often and for a while believed that the memory was just stored in the hippocampus. But that's been proven not true, and it's actually stored all throughout your brain, which is super cool. But further than that, it's also been shown that it's also stored in other people. And this is through a theory proposed by Daniel Wagner. And he proposed that we store our memory in other people as a form of transactive memory. And so what that basically means is that throughout our lives, when we meet people and when we're in a relationship, whether if we're in a family, if we're in friendships, even coworkers, then our brains, we like to reduce the mental load, which is which is effectively saying that we don't like to have a whole lot of information stored in our mind all in one place. You can think of Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes, he says in the Study in Scarlet, the first Sherlock Holmes novel, that your mind is like a flat, as he says because he's British, and he says that he only wants to keep the minimal amount of stuff in there that is what he needs, so it doesn't get cluttered. And so I think that's a fun way to think about it. So with Sherlock Holmes, he stores all of his information about social groups and understandings in John Watson. And this is also true for people. In marriages, for example, then maybe one person is responsible for remembering their social plans, and the other person is responsible for knowing when bills are paid and which bills. That's just one example. But also it can go further, and one person may remember specific memories that another person doesn't remember as well, whereas the other person might not remember them, and they might remember other important memories. But now, what's more interesting to me than transactive memory among people and among groups is the fact that there are current theories that there are also transactive memories with people and objects. And that can be part of why it's so hard to get rid of different items. And now, this idea was first proposed to me, at least, in a book called Goodbye Things. I'm forgetting the author's name, but it was a really great book where the author talks a lot about minimalism and the Japanese culture of minimalism, but also how to start to implement it in your life in small or large ways. And one of the things that he explains is that everything we have in our homes or we have around us has a relationship with us. And our job is to realize what that relationship is and see if it's one that we really want. So now let me give you an example. This shirt is a shirt I that I got when my brother came home from a 2-year mission for our church. And so when he got back, we all wore this shirt. So now I have that relationship with this shirt. Is this shirt helps hold that memory? Interesting. And it's because it's a mental cue to a memory so that it doesn't have to be stored so explicitly, but it can be drawn up for recall. Another great example is books. Books are a great example of being a cue for stored memories. Other clothing items, maybe it's a dish in the house, maybe it's literally everything. You could have some sort of relationship with anything. If you pick it up, you're like, oh, I remember. And maybe you didn't think about it until you looked at that one thing. And so that's what's fascinating, but also what's difficult when it comes to getting rid of stuff. And I'm not saying you need to get rid of stuff, but if you do, it's important to realize that the stuff you're getting rid of, you have a certain relationship with. And are you okay with getting rid of that relationship? And often the answer can be yes. And what the author proposes in Goodbye Things is if you're having a really hard time getting rid of something, take a picture of it, which is kind of funny, but it does help you with the memory. Because then you can look at the picture and say, oh, I remember that shirt. and that shirt is reminds me of blank. And so you're not getting rid of that memory in a sense. And then if you're really having a hard time, take a picture of it, put it in a box or put it in a bag and put it in a different room and leave it there for a month or two. And if you're like, I never ever even thought about that, then you can just get rid of it. So that's been a little bit of advice on memory, but also a little bit of bonus advice on decluttering. So I hope you liked it.